Ready? Think we're ready?
Yeah, we're ready to go.
Okay, fantastic. So first of all, it's so nice to see everybody, but especially to see the chief rabbi of South Africa, Rabbi Goldstein. And what a pleasure, what a schus, what an honor it is to have you. This learning is so beautiful. That we're learning about Shabbos, which Rabbi Goldstein is supporting the cause of Shabbos for the whole of the Jewish people. What he's done is absolutely incredible. But I think during this 3-week period, we're mourning a little bit the destruction of the temple, and really what we need to do as a Jewish people is strengthen ourselves between each other, that we love each other, that we care about each other, we accept each other, but primarily through the Torah. And what could be greater than what you are all doing here today is that you're learning together, that the bond that comes from learning together. There's no greater depth of friendship and care that comes through learning Hashem's Torah together, and especially about Shabbos, which is the central principle of the Torah and the heart of the Torah. So it's so fantastic. So I'd just like to by way of introduction, just to thank Rabbi Goldstein, because Rabbi Goldstein is just like, in a world where the Jewish people is struggling and there's so much assimilation going on, Rabbi Goldstein is a shining light who believes in trying to put everything he has into sharing the beauty of our Torah with our brothers and sisters in a most incredible and successful way. And I just wanted to thank you, because I was thinking before I came on that I was thinking that, my teacher, Rabbi Weinberg, that was his whole life, was about trying to share the beauty of what we have, our heritage, and to all those people that don't for no fault of their own, just haven't really had the benefit of learning it, but he dedicated his whole life to spreading the beauty and the wisdom of Judaism. And he used to say, give me 10 men and I'll change the world. Some people say 10 men means 6 women. So we're not being, saying just men. It's could be 10 men, 6 women, he'll change the whole world. But I would say that, the chief rabbi, in my opinion, is one of those 10 men that Rav Noach would be saying, look at what he's done and look what he's doing. And he's a great friend of Project Inspire. He's a friend, and he's not only a friend of Project Inspire, he's a friend to all Jewish people, individuals, organizations, anyone who wants to really make a difference. He's there. He's leading the troops, and we just can't thank you enough, Rabbi, for giving us some of your time. And we are inspired, no pun intended. We're inspired by you. And we look forward to doing more and more, to partnering with you more and more together, so we can bring back the Beit HaMikdash, the temple, and we'll all be dancing in Jerusalem together with the Mashiach very, very soon. Thank you so much, Chief Rabbi. I want to ask Danielle just to say a couple of words. Go on.
Yeah. I mean. So affectionately known as Chief, Rabbi Dr. Warren Goldstein has served as South Africa's Chief Rabbi since 2005. He is a qualified Dayan and has a PhD in human rights and constitutional law. Rabbi Goldstein has been described as a social entrepreneur by the Jerusalem Post and featured on its list of the 50 most influential Jews on the basis of an array of groundbreaking initiatives that he has launched and led, the most well-known of which is the Shabbos Project, a global grassroots movement that has spread to more than 1,500 cities and 100 countries around the world. We are very honored to have you here with us tonight, Rabbi Dr. Warren Goldstein.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Daniela, and thank you, Rabbi Samson, to both of you for such gracious and warm words of introduction, which I appreciate very much. Rabbi Samson, thank you particularly for your generous comments and the friendship over so many years, right from the very first year when the Shabbos Project started to spread. This is in fact the 10th anniversary. It started in South Africa in 2013. But I remember, Rabbi Samson, in 2014, you were one of the leading forces in the US, taking it on and driving it with tremendous passion. So thank you for your friendship and partnership over so many years. And it's truly an honor to be with you and all of the wonderful people of Project Inspire. And I want to commend all of you for coming together to spend the time learning. And what I would like to do, I know we in the short time that we have together, the next 20 minutes or so, I'll share with you one or two ideas related to what you've just discussed But then I would very much like to hear your questions and comments, if there's anything that I can respond to, so that this is not really just a one-way conversation. I'm speaking to you from Cape Town in South Africa. It's over here, we're in the middle of winter, being in the Southern Hemisphere. So we're in the middle of our winter, and I know that you're in the middle of a very warm stretch of summer in the New York area and in the Northern Hemisphere. So I envy your summer, and I come to you from a bit of a windy Cape Town, but nevertheless, my heart feeling very warm to be with each and every single one of you. The core idea of what you learned, is based on chapter 1 of my new book, Shabbat, a Day to Create Yourself. And at the heart of what you've been learning is one of the most radical ideas in all of Judaism, which is that one of the mitzvahs that we have is nothing less than to become like God and to be creators like God. And that process is part of that involves reaching out to one another with acts of kindness and compassion. And part of it involves being a creator like him, because the defining identity of God is that he created us and he created our world. And he calls upon us to be creators like him. And if you think about it, Shabbat, perhaps one of the most unusual descriptions of Shabbat is the fact that the mitzvah itself of Shabbat is framed around God's creation of the world. So that in a real sense, when God says to us, he doesn't just say keep Shabbat. He says 6 days I created the world, and on the 7th I made Shabbat. Then he says to us, 6 days create and do your work, and on the 7th day make Shabbat. So he by the very phraseology of the mitzvah itself, we see that we are called into a parallel with God himself as a creator. And so it's a very radical idea. It requires a lot of time to contemplate and to think indeed how radical it is, because God is such an awesome creator. He created this entire universe, and now he's saying and comparing us in our lives to him, and that the work that we do daily in our lives is a work which is like him, in the sense that we are also creating. And so part of the essence of what was trying to convey in this chapter 1 of the book is that, and in a certain sense, this is the unusual nature of the title of the book. The book is called Shabbat, a Day to Create Yourself. And actually, when you say the word, Shabbat is a day to create, it almost sounds jarring. How can Shabbat be a day to create? It's a day to rest. But it goes to the essence of how we define productivity and work. You see, very often, and when we start to think of things from a Western point of view, we think of ourselves as being productive and creative by creating and producing things which are tangible and which can be measured and priced, and things which we can touch and feel. But really, and that is an important part of human creativity. If you think of the awesomeness of human civilization, the high-rise buildings, the sense of medicine, of architecture, of law, of science, of all of the different dimensions of what human beings have created, that human civilization, you can feel the godly spark of creativity in the building of human civilization. But the message of Shabbat and the message of the Torah itself is telling us, God is telling us, that is only one part of who we are. There's another part of who we are, and that is we are called upon to create the things that you can't touch and feel and see. And those things are actually even more precious, because they're really what it's about. And so it is the precious relationships that we have with our loved ones, with God himself, and with ourselves. Indeed, that you can't touch and feel a relationship, the love, the bond that there is between parents and children, between husband and wife, between us and God, between us and ourselves. These relationships are so precious, and yet the bonds of love are intangible. And so too, for the work of creating ourselves, as creating our character. The book is based on a particular perspective of self-creation formulated by the Ramban, one of our great sages from the 1300s, who said that self-creation is about forming our character traits of humility and kindness and wisdom and generosity and optimism, as well as forming our attitudes and philosophies of life. And so you cannot touch humility. You can't say, I'm creating humility and this is what it looks like. Humility is part of who you become. Wisdom, generosity, optimism. These are all qualities within a person that you cannot, you can have a sense of it, but you can't really fully describe it, and you can't really touch and feel it. You cannot see it, and yet they are the essence of who we are, as are our perspectives. How do we look at the world? With belief, with faith, with feeling the presence of our Creator, with feeling the meaning and purpose of our lives. All of this goes to the very heart and the essence of who we are. And then the bonds of the relationships and the love that we feel, as well as that sense of happiness that comes from life. One portion of the book is devoted to how Shabbat gives us a formula for how to create happiness in our lives. And happiness is also something that cannot be bought, cannot be measured or priced. It is something that we create within ourselves, and it doesn't exist out there, it exists within, but we need the tools to develop it and to find it and to cultivate it and to nurture it, and that is exactly what Shabbat gives. And so part of the experience that you had now in this learning was to delve into what does it mean to be a creator like God. There's the dimension of the kindness, there is the dimension of the character traits, and then there is the whole mandate that we have to be creators exactly like God. And that is the ultimate compliment when the creator of the universe, who is defined by his creativity, says, no, we can achieve greatness like him. Then we are called, in fact, to that greatness. And that is a critical message of what Shabbat, and that's why I chose to title the book Shabbat, a day to create yourself, which sounds counterintuitive, but only if we have a narrow definition of productivity, and we only measure the productivity in terms of chores that we can tick off our list, things which we can buy, items that we can sell, money that we can make, and all of the very tangible things of our lives. Shabbat is a recognition that ultimately the things that we cannot touch are even more precious than those, and we need at least this one day a week to be able to put aside all of the other things and to focus then on our marriages, our parenting, our connection to God, our spirituality, our connection to self, and nurturing that deep sense of personal wisdom. So the book really charts the journey of what self-creation looks like. And as I mentioned to you, it's really divided into three major parts: the character traits that Shabbat helps us to cultivate and instill within ourselves, the perspectives. What does life look like? What is the meaning of life? How do we understand the meaning? How do we understand the why of Shabbat? And then as a model for happiness. And the final section of the book is the impact that Shabbat makes on our lives as individuals, but also as the Jewish people in every corner of the globe. And that's why right at the end of the book, the afterword is the story of the Shabbat Project, which really is a story that began 10 years ago in South Africa in 2013, when at the time we announced that there were many people who felt that it wouldn't work. There was skepticism, and yet we went ahead with it, and the community embraced it in such a warm and beautiful way. And then in 2014, created a video explaining what happened in South Africa, invited the world to join, and it's had a natural and beautiful energy that has spread throughout the globe. And what I've learned over these last 10 years with the Shabbat Project is that the driving force of the Shabbat Project is Shabbat itself, and the fact that it's a people's movement, that there are people on the ground, volunteers, and that it connects deeply with Am Yisrael, with all Jews. I was just in Israel just over a week ago, and I presented the Hebrew version of my book to President Herzog, to many members of Knesset, And you would think, at this, right from the left all the way through to the right, from, the Labour Party and Yesh Atid and Likud all the way to Shas. And you would think that at a time of such division in Israel, this would have been met with the equal division that one's finding on many other issues. But I found such open hearts and open doors when speaking about Shabbat. People are ready for it and welcoming it. Working with an amazing organization on the ground there called Kesher Yehudi, that has set up chavrusas with soldiers and yeshiva bochrim. There are 1,000 chavrusas that are learning the Shabbos book. My new book in the Hebrew version, soldiers and yeshiva bochrim, the students in yeshivas. And you would think that, at this time of division, one would imagine that if you would say, listen, put a yeshiva bocher together with a soldier and let them learn about Shabbos at this time, what's happening in Israel, you would think that's probably the worst idea imaginable. And yet it's been the most wonderful experience, because actually in the heart of every Jew there's this deep connection to Shabbat. Of course, Shabbat offers the most compelling and powerful message for modern day life. In a certain way, Shabbat has the formula for all of the great challenges modern society is facing: the disconnection, rising anxiety, dislocation of families, the search for bonds of love, the search for meaning, all of these things. Shabbat gives us the why of life. It gives us the why to be Jewish. The great assimilation crisis that we face as Jews, where the transfer of Judaism to the next generation is proving so challenging, boils down to one question. The question is, do we have a compelling why for why to be Jewish that we can give the next generation of Jews to say this is something that is actually worth your time and effort and commitment? Shabbat gives the why, it gives the inspiration, it holds everything together, it's compelling, but there's something even deeper, and it goes to something which is deeply spiritual and visceral on the deepest sense of what it is to be a Jew, where just saying the word Shabbat in front of Jews stirs something deep inside the neshama, inside the soul, and it opens up and it connects us, which is why the Shabbat Project has been able to connect with Jews in the former Soviet Union, in Jews in all the far reaches of the United States, from Fernley, Nevada to LA to New York, doesn't matter which part of the country, and it has connected with Jews in Latin America and in France, and so that there is this very deep spiritual connection, which goes beyond the fact that Shabbos provides the answers to some of the greatest social ills that our world is facing, the crisis that the world is facing at the moment, the social crisis. But it is even deeper, it is more spiritual and more meaningful than that, on the most deepest sense of personal identity. And so, I want to take some questions, but before I do, I want to just mention this. At the heart of everything has been this people's movement, and I wanted to make an appeal, Rabbi Samson, with your permission, and to everyone who's listening. You've tasted a little bit today in your learning from chapter 1 of the book. We're setting up learning groups around the book. I know that Robin Meyerson is on this call. Robin has been doing the most unbelievable work with the Shabbat Project over many years, and now more recently with the book. Through Robin's unbelievable efforts, there more than 230 learning groups have been set up in North America alone, with more than 4,000 copies in circulation. And so let me say this firstly. All the proceeds of the book can go directly to the Shabbat Project. I learned this from the design of the book, and I don't know if you've seen the cover, you'll see that it's a very striking and contemporary cover. Because I was looking for because since the book is a fresh take on Shabbat, although deeply rooted in our sources, I was looking for a cover that would reflect that, and I didn't want a cover of a book about Shabbat just to have 2 candles and golden challahs on the cover. So I was looking for something that would be fresh, and was hard to find because some of the designers came with designs that were too old-fashioned, and others came with designs which were too contemporary and had none of the holiness. And then I spoke to a designer who had worked with the Shabbat Project in the early years, Sharon Chorev, who's Israeli. And I said to her, Sharon, and she's got a real magic touch. And I said to her, what would be if if Steve Jobs came to present Shabbos to the world? What would it look like? And at the same time, have the ancient connection, the authentic connection to the past. So she came up with this cover with the simple black and white, the typography, but together with the word Shabbat, embossed with the Rashi font, which is a very ancient Hebrew font, so that would have a touch of the new and the old. The word a day to create yourself, the word yourself is actually broken in half. And I've had people say, well, is that a typo error? What happened? Typographical error? It's certainly not. Is that we are a work in progress, and Shabbat takes us on that journey. I mention all of this because after Sharon did this magnificent work on the cover, she refused to take 1 cent from it, because she said, look, this is for Shabbat. And she said, this is for Shabbat, and she won't charge for it. And we had to do 4 versions of it because it's been translated into Hebrew, Spanish, and French. And so for me, it was an inspiring moment, because there would be some people who would have described her as chiloni, which means secular, and I hate that word, because every Jew has a deep connection to Shabbos, as you could see from her response to it. But also because this book is, all the proceeds are going into the Shabbos project. But more than that, it's available for purchase on Amazon and in all of the bookstores, in the Jewish bookstores. But what I wanted to make the offer on this call, Rabbi Samson, with your permission, and Robin maybe can help to work with Daniela on this. We're looking to start as many learning groups as possible. We have more than 230 in the United States alone. There are many hundreds in Israel, as I mentioned to you now, through this organization Kesher Yehudi, and also the university Kiruv organizations working in Israel. But ultimately, the Shabbos Project has always been about people on the ground doing and creating. And so the offer that I want to make to each and every single one of you is this: if you want to set up a learning group, then be in touch with Robin via Rabbi Samson and the team, and you can set up a learning group with whoever you would like. It could be 1, 2, 3, 10 people. And we have some amazing, generous donors who are prepared to help support the starting of these learning groups, to send gift copies to all the members of the learning group so that they can get started. And that can be something which can be so beautiful and so powerful, and be part of sharing the messages, as the Talmud actually says, that when God, and I'll end with this, and then we'll just have a few minutes for if there are any questions. The Talmud says that when God said to Moses, he said, Amar lo HaKadosh Baruch Hu Moshe, the Holy One, blessed be He, said to Moses, Matana tova yesh li beveis kenazai, I have a precious gift in my treasure house, Shabbat Shema, and its name is Shabbos. And Vani roitze litna l'Yisrael, I want to give it to the Jewish people. Leich v'hodiam, go and tell them about it. And we learn from this passage in the Talmud, firstly, that Shabbos is a gift. It is absolutely a gift. It's God's gift to us. God doesn't give us Shabbos because He needs us to keep Shabbos. He gives us Shabbos because it is the greatest gift for us in our lives. We also learn that if we have tasted this gift, we need to share it with as many people as possible. And part of what I've tried to do in writing the book is to share that gift. But ultimately, I can write the words on a piece of paper, but those words need to be discussed and debated and lived. And that can only happen with partners like you who are ready to take this vision forward and to start the learning groups, to start the chavrutas, the learning pairs. And I think together, if you do that and join me in that, we can truly change the world.
Wow. Thank you so much, Rabbi. Goldstein, just to say, we're totally behind. This is an incredible thing. You're doing it again, and with this new wonderful initiative. And, I see that on the chat, Luciano's saying, yeah, I'd love to be in a group like that. I think the chief rabbi is saying, okay, get it together, right? Get it together and get your own group. And we encourage everybody to do that, to spread the light, and then to be in touch with Danielle and myself, and then we'll be in touch with Robin, and we can move that forward. But of course, pretty much anything you do, Rabbi, you have a stamp of approval from me and from Project Inspire, from everybody involved with us. So thank you so much to continue spreading your light and the beauty of Shabbos and Judaism. And please God, we'll see everybody together learning and growing and in a non-judgmental and a caring, accepting, loving way. That's what it's all about. And thank you for spearheading this movement. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Rabbi Samson. It's been an honor to be with all of you, and thank you for being part of this journey. To join a group, to start a group. It's ultimately, you know what I've learned over the years, and I've served as Chief Rabbi of South Africa for 18 years. What I've learned over all this time is that when we step forward and take on leadership, and I've seen this not only in terms of myself with the leadership position I have, but my philosophy is that we are all leaders, and that ultimately we can all make a difference when, as a human being, we take on leadership and responsibility and we look to reach out to others. The world is changed, but ultimately we are the ones who get the greatest inspiration from being leaders. So my invitation to all of you today is become leaders, come forward and let's go on this journey together, and together we can change the world. Rabbi Samson, thank you so much to you, to Daniela, to the entire team for your partnership and putting this together, and thank you to Robin for the most unbelievable work that she's doing, and to all of you, such an honor to be with you. All the best.
Do we have a couple of minutes for questions, Rabbi Goldstein?
Yes.
Yeah, you mentioned the word Chiloni. Actually, you can look at Chiloni come from the word Chayil, like Eshet Chayil. Eshet Chayil is the one that supports her husband. The Chilonim is the one that support the non-Chilonim. They do the mischar, labor, and all the stuff, and education. So the man can be available to do study of Torah. So the Chilonim is the one of the providing some of the economic base and im and lechem and Torah. I think this is the way it's go. You need some Chilonim also. They're still Jewish. They're still keeping the Shabbat. They're still eating kosher. But they're not rabbis. So we don't have separate Chilonim and Datim. We can say it's one nation that one support the other.
Any comments, Rabbi?
Look, I think ultimately the best thing I've found in my experience is even not to use any labels at all. We're all Jews and different Jews striving at different levels, and Shabbat belongs to each and every single one of us. And I think that's the most important thing is the sense of the fact that it's a gift. It's a gift to every single Jew, and it is our spiritual heritage, every single Jew. And I think the more that we can share that with others, I think that becomes absolutely so vital.